good evening, guys. So I've made it to Quartzsite. What is today? Today's Sunday. I made it here on Thursday. I got lost. It was about 4.5 hours to get here, but it took me a lot longer. Um, I was almost here. It should have been like 40 minutes from here. Well, I pull up to a light, and Google does not tell me to go right. So I continued straight on the road. I went past all of these beautiful RV resorts and this, when I now know is a river, I thought it was a lake. Just a beautiful area. They're all waterside and just gorgeous. And on this cliffside to my left, signs are everywhere about burrows in the road, which I did run into quite a few of them right in the road. And the road splits, and it tells me to go left. Well, it didn't look like it just looks sketchy to go down that road. So I continued right because that seemed to be the way I was supposed to be going. And I could see like a major road off on the other side of the water. But then there's this big gates, and it's a government property. And the gates close, chain link fence, but they were open. I'm like, all right, this is not where I belong. So I saw this cliff area where I had to pull around and turn off. And I always am afraid to pull off the side of the road because you never know what kind of debris in the ground, nails, you never know. So I turned around and went back to where I was supposed to go to the left. Well, I look at the map. I pull Google up and I'm looking at my map, and it shows that road ends at the water, and the water ends. And then I see another government sign. Like, all right, I don't belong here. And both sides of the road had really soft dirt for shoulders. I'm like, I can't even pull off the road. I'm going to get stuck in this soft dirt. Well, then I see a big driveway to my left, which was kind of packed down. So I quickly spun around, and I'm heading back. Now, mind you, I had already been on this road, a good half hour or more. So then I see a truck in one of the RV resorts, because now, once I got past all those, there was a couple to my right. All the other ones were across the water, which I don't even know how you get there. So I saw a truck moving, so I pull into it, and he's on his way out. So I'm like hanging my arm out the window to stop him. And him and his wife are in the truck, and says, can we help you? I said, yeah, I'm trying to get to Quartzsite. And she's like, oh my God, girl, you are way out of your way. I'm like, yeah, kind of knew that. So she says, go down to the end of the road. When you get to the only stop sign, you make a left and you go over the bridge. And I saw a big train bridge. Well, there's a bridge right next for us. So I get back on the road, and by the time I got here, it was getting dark. And I told a friend of mine, Tracy, that I was going to pull into Hi Jolly to say hi because he had just lost his dog the night before. An older little thing that he was sitting around with his friends around the campfire with all their other dogs that were loose. And he looked down, and Edgar was missing. And he found him, and he's way in the back of Hi Jolly. He found him up on the road dead. So that just broke my heart. It just to know somebody that just lost their loved one, just their dog. Even though it's a dog, it's still a part of your family. And to know that my two are, getting up there. So I made sure that I pulled in just to, to see how he was doing and to say hello and to see where he was camped. Well, Hi Jolly's packed full of people. It's a very small campground. It's the closest one to town. And when you leave, you're right just across the road up a little bit is the transfer station to throw trash. And then the main water fill station with propane and a place to dump your gray and black tanks is there. So you're just so close to everything. So it was just too crowded for me to park there. So I came up here before that one. It's 5 miles to town, where I think Hi Jolly is 2 to the main part of town, like the main intersection. So I'm over here at La Posa, and I have a really nice spot. It's wide open. I'm facing like the tree area. So I'm all set up, but on the way here, I did hit, my trailer sits lower, which sits perfect now. With my Hummer, it always sat up a little, slightly too high in the front. But my foot, which I don't take off, I need to, and I think I can pull that pole out that your foot's attached to, the one that you crank down and crank up to hold your, your tongue up in your trailer. Sometimes gas stations have like a really steep driveway. Well, I hit my foot twice on there. Not my foot on my leg, but the trailer foot. And one time I really hit it. So when I got here, I pulled it in the dark. So all I did was put my stabilizers out and I kept my trailer hooked up to the truck. So the next morning I'm unhooking everything and I could barely crank my tongue up to get it off my truck. And then I'm trying to crank it down to level it and I could barely move the thing. So the pole somehow, it's bent somewhere. So my neighbors, there's a fifth wheel behind me and a Class C. A couple from Wisconsin, very nice people. Well, the other night he came over in the Class C and invited me over to dinner to the fifth wheel guy who's right behind me. And I told him I couldn't eat the dinner, but Devin came over and offered me a beer. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take a beer. And very nice. We got talking about my problem on my trailer. So the guy in the fifth wheel is going to come over and look at it. He actually came over tonight because I mentioned to the other guy that I had a fuel issue but things got misconstrued because the guy came over with his battery tester to test my battery. I had nothing wrong with my battery, my starter, or my alternator. It's a fuel issue. So, and he said, well, didn't you say that it was clicking when it started? I'm like, no. And I'm not dumb when it comes to vehicles. I know quite a bit about motors. It's a fuel issue. There's something going on. Either there's junk in the tank or, just filter storage, something. Fuel gauge soft, float, sensor, something, listen to me. But then he said that he'd be over tomorrow to look at my tongue, which I showed him with, it was getting dark, so I just picked up my solar light and showed him where you could see on the pole where it scraped the paint all off. So something's bent in there, and he's got tools and stuff. So my daughter asked me how it was doing. Did I get here okay? I said, yeah, and then I told it, my neighbor said he was going to look at my trailer. And he goes, well, that's really nice of him. And I said, well, that's kind of like an unspoken nomad code out here. We all help each other. We rally around and help each other. Like when I was in Pahrump 2 years ago and I had that oil leak, which wasn't coming from my manifold or anywhere where you could see where oil was coming from, the guy researched my Hummer and found out that right by the firewall behind the manifold, there's a little hose like this and has 2 bends in it. Well, both of those bends had dry rotted. So whenever I was going, I guess, up an incline, oil was spewing out, and it was going all over my tongue and all over the front of my trailer. And because there was never any oil dripping underneath it, just on my trailer. So he found out that could be the issue, and it was. It was, I think, a $7 piece. But I had to order it, and he fixed it for me. But it's like, when I pulled in to see Tracy, he asked me how my truck was running because he knew I just got it. And I was telling him about the gas issues. He says, well, we got 2 mechanics here. They can look at your truck for you. So we all rally around together and help each other. But just be careful. Make sure that you got to trust these people that say they're mechanics. So when it comes to like motor issues, be very careful. But I'm glad that he's going to come over and look at my hitch. And then he asked me to go on a bike ride with him. He's got a motorcycle. And it kind of threw me. And my kids' dad, my 3 younger ones, we had dirt bikes. And when our daughter was 3 months old, my daughter Daisy, she's 25 now, we took our bikes out. We went to Crystal Lake in Jersey, beautiful place, out in the middle of the woods. And he went off with my son Cole, who was, I believe, 9 at the time. And for some reason, he didn't put a helmet on. And Cole asked him to go over a jump. Well, Lou went over the jump. Didn't pull up. Back of the bike swung around. He crashed. He cracked his skull in 2 spots. His orbital socket was cracked. His eye was hanging out. So Cole came running out of the woods. And Dale, my daughter Dale, was with me. And at that time, Cole was into lying. And he's like, Lou's hurt. And Dale's like, no, he's lying. I'm like, I waited a second. I'm like, no, I don't hear his bike. So we run down to where Cole was, and we look down the road, and there was Lou just stumbling. He had busted his collarbone. It was almost coming out, a compound fracture. And his eye was just, his hair was burnt, and it was a mess. And when the guy asked me, do I ride? And I briefly told him, and last time was with our dirt bikes. And I think I'd been on my friend's Harley one time after that. But he says, well, you were afraid? I'm like, no, I'm not afraid. The trauma from that day. So I remember sitting in the woods in the shade. We didn't have cell phones then. It was 1997. We had pagers. And the only people we saw coming in through the woods were two guys on jet skis. And Dale didn't have her license. She was 15, 14. I think she was 14. So I told her, get in the Jeep, go find those guys. Go tell them that, Lou's hurt. We need an ambulance. So the guys come all the way back. And they're a good mile away from us to see what happened. And then they left to go call. And you had to be airlifted out. The ambulance came and said it was too dangerous to take him out. So we had to wait for the helicopter. And he was in a head trauma unit for a week. We had to teach him how to walk and eat again. And it was a time. And I remember sitting in the woods with his head in my lap. He was bleedy. He was busted up. His hair smelled burnt. His eye was just protruding out of its socket. I remember holding my 3-month-old baby, and I was happy for the first time in my life. I'm thinking my life's over. Is he going to die? Is he going to be normal? Well, I think, 4 years later, his closed head injury came out, and he was not the man that I met, or the man I fell in love with and decided to have children with. So that's why I took my kids and left when they were 3 and 4. And that was actually 21 years ago. That was a long time ago. Wow. But when he asked me to go on a bike ride with him, it just brought back all of those memories. And now I can't stop thinking about it. And it was such a trauma in my life that in therapy, I don't think I ever discussed that. It's never been touched on. There's been a lot of, death and accidents in my life, and I've dealt with them. But I think this one's a tough one. I was happy. And Cole, my son Cole, who was with him, he blames himself to this day, and he's in his 30s. And he says, well, my younger siblings no longer have a dad, and you no longer have Lou, and you were happy, and it's my fault. I'm like, it's not your fault. He was a grown man who chose to go off that day without a helmet on. He's a grown man who chose to get you off the bike when you asked him to go over a jump, and go over that jump. He made those conscious decisions as a grown man. It's not your fault. Accidents happen. Just remember, always wear a helmet. So, I want to go for a ride, but then I don't. I don't know. I don't know how to deal with these feelings. I can't shake it. It just won't go away. And I thought I had been handling it all these years really well with his wild hair. I don't know. I don't know if I should just get on the bike and just go and deal with it like I dealt with the bears this summer. I don't know. That's a memory that I have trouble dealing, because there was no one that supported me. Like, even when my son was killed, there was no one that had said, hey, are you okay? Even when I got divorced, there was no one that said, hey, are you okay? No, I wasn't okay all those times. And this one stuck with me. And I guess I have to deal with it somehow. Maybe go back to therapy sometime. But I have to be in a place where, I can go every month. But then again, to go back to therapy, I've been, and I loved my therapist. If we had met at a bar, we would have been best friends. To open yourself up and be so vulnerable to a stranger again and talk about your life, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm just done doing that. I'm 62 years old. This is who I am. But I didn't know when he asked me to go for a ride that it would open that can of worms again. And I got to deal with it. I'll deal with it. I'm a big girl, and I'll figure it out. But I like where I am. They're wonderful people that I've met. Had a good time with them. And we'll fix whatever's bent on my trailer here. And I was invited to. I ran into Chantel for my basic journey. Finally, the other day, we met up at the store. And then we went, just saw a couple of vendors. She got a sign made with her name, her YouTube name on it. And she invited me to go spend Christmas with them. They're going to go down the road a little bit with a couple other people. So I'll probably do that way. And we're going to have a big dinner. And she knows I love to cook. So, and there's another vegan, so I get to cook something. I'm trying to figure out what though. And I'm going to make some desserts, and I'm just excited to be able to cook dinner for people. And even the girl that she's camping with said that she would eat the vegan food too. So I'm excited about that. I'm not excited about having to pack stuff up and go down the road, but I'm probably going to come back here because the camp host said the 2-week rule is in effect. We can be here 14 days. Then we have to go 25 miles away, which I don't know how they know we go 25 miles. We don't. And then we can come back. But the guy behind me said that she's not going to enforce that because the more people around, the safer she feels. But don't tell anybody that. Shh, keep that quiet. So we'll see. But I am excited to hang out with Chantel again. And she's such a sweetheart. And I got to see Joey. And the girl she's with is really sweet too. So, and she said I can do a tour of her van. She's never had a tour done. So I get to be the first. And I'm excited about that. So guys, I'm going to learn to deal with whatever. And I hope it doesn't keep me up tonight. And yeah, PTSD is a thing. And yeah, so I'll figure it out. I don't know if I'll go for a ride with him. He said he'd go slow. We want to take a short ride, which is road up here. This road down here goes to Bouse, and it's one of those roads with all the whoop-de-doos, and it's so cool. I remember doing it 2 years ago on my Hummer, and it's a really pretty ride. And you know, when the road goes like this, it's pretty cool. So I'm sure it'd be fun on a bike, but we'll see. And yeah. So guys, I hope you have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.